Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2025 World Cup. This event, the time I'm sending this video, has already ended for I think about a week. But since I can only come back home on weekends just for one day and the rest of the times I'm just staying at the school or the practice center. So in this case, this recap of this whole exciting finals of the World Cup came a little bit late, but still hope you guys enjoy it. All right, now into the main topic. This time's World Cup, there was a historical moment, and the winner of the World Cup is none other than Uzbekistan's rising star and 19-year-old, the youngest winner of the World Cup, Javokhir Sindarov. He has made history by becoming the youngest World Cup winner ever. And 19-year-old, this is actually really funny because in the Women's World Cup, the winner of the 2025 World Cup of the Women's is Divya Deshmukh from India, and she is also 19 years old. And what's even more similar is that their birthday, Divya's birthday and Sindarov's birthday, they were both born in 2005 December, and Sindarov is born in December 8th. And for Divya, December 9th. So that is also a huge similarity in these two winners' birthday. All right. But now, the 19-year-old Uzbek Grandmaster Sindarov, in the finals, he has defeated Wei Yi from China, also an extremely strong player and with more experience, of course, where they had to go into the tiebreak playoffs, the rapid, because they had two draws in the classical. And in the rapid tiebreaks, this was a very exciting moment, and Sindarov, he had completed a remarkable month-long run through the 206-player knockout. In the first rapid game, Sindarov actually missed a winning chance, but it wasn't very clear, and especially it's an end game where there's an only move and it's just so hard to calculate that he missed it, and that game ended in a draw. Actually, he discovered that detail, unfortunately, during the break between the next game. Something that could have shaken any player because you just feel so unlucky. And, but in the second game, he played confidently in a very slow Italian, gained a big time advantage, and eventually broke through when Wei Yi, down to seconds on his clock under time pressure, failed to find the precise defensive moves. And after 27 games undefeated, Wei Yi finally slipped and allowing Sindarov to clinch the title, the champion. So Sindarov's entire tournament run was extraordinary. Earlier upsets meant that he avoided several top seeds, since he lost or made some, didn't play his best form, he actually didn't get to faced against some top seeds, making his opponents maybe less easier to face, but still, of course, they're all very strong grandmasters. And he still had to beat strong opponents, as I've said, like Svein, Martinez, Yakolev, and finally, Wei Yi. His victory not only gives him the big prize, the $120,000 top prize, but also a spot in the upcoming 2026 Candidates tournament. And his first ever. That is a huge milestone for him. This year's World Cup also highlighted a shift in modern chess. 19 is the new golden age, as I said, with Sindarov, Women's World Cup champion Divya Deshmukh, and also world champion Gukesh. Well, he is about to become 19. A new generation is clearly taking over. They are so strong, and for Wei Yi, the loss was heartbreaking, but still historic. He qualified to the candidates whatsoever, and in the end, he is in second place, and of course, that is he proved that he also belongs in the very top of the world-class chess. He qualified to candidates for the first time actually in his career and finished with only one loss in 28 games, the one that mattered or the one that decides the champion of this World Cup. Sindarov, in the end, he called it one of the best days of my life, or his life in this case, I'm just quoting. And he returned to Uzbekistan to a hero's welcome, including a cash bonus and an apartment. That is just something really great for him. With this breakthrough, he is now positioned as one of the most exciting rising stars in the 2026 candidates. So we're all expecting him to also play some great chess in the candidates. All right, after so many sharings, now let's jump into this game where this is the most decisive game. This is round 2 of their tiebreak playoffs, which is rapid games, and they had a draw in the very first game where Sindarov is with the white pieces in that one, and now he is with the black pieces. So usually it means that you just want to play calmly, or because you're the one who doesn't get to start the game first. Sometimes players, they decide to play more calmly, but in this game, these two players made some unexpected decisions, and let's see. So Wei Yi with the white pieces, e4, and here we have the Italian game, bishop c4, knight f6, d3. This is all theory. Short castle, knight c3, d6. So this is really, really standard and common that happens in Grandmaster chess. And here Wei Yi plays the move a4, bishop g4. This is all the main lines. And these two, they spent no time thinking, just blitzing out each move really fast. h3, bishop takes f3. Now this move, there's also bishop h5 if you want to play here to keep the bishop pair on the board, which is also possible. Bishop h5, and here for white basically is just bishop e3. But here, that's just another option. But here bishop f3 was played instead, queen takes f3, knight d4, and the queen drops back to d1. So far, both sides didn't spend any time and had even gained 1 extra minute. Here c6, and Wei Yi started to spend some time thinking. c6 is the main line here. Bishop a2 is also the right move, but maybe Wei Yi is just trying to clear his mind and trying to memorize all of these lines to make sure that he doesn't make any mistakes. Here Sindarov plays the move knight e6 and Wei Yi rook e1. Still, this is no problem. Queen c7, and here bishop e3. Right now, all of these two players, they are playing really normal moves and logical moves, just simply developing their pieces, maneuvering their bishops and their knights to the better squares. And here b6 was played. The Sindarov is having this really solid setup in the center of the board, but at some time he could find a way to push d5 to open up or create counterplay in the center of the board. So here Wei Yi spent now 2 minutes thinking and played this move queen f3. Queen f3 is the best move in this position, but maybe Wei Yi is now unsure about how to play on. Maybe he forgot about this line, but still queen f3 is the correct move with the idea of queen g3 ideas, or simply just lining up these two rooks so that the rook can come to d1 at some point. Here rook a d8 was played, h4. Now this move is an inaccurate move here, but probably Wei Yi noticed that Sindarov is playing so fast and wants to give him some challenges as well. And now he just says, okay, I play h4, and now both of us are out of our opening book, and now we have to think. h4's idea is very clear. h5, h6 is coming really aggressive because this is a very important round in their match, and it could be really decisive, deciding who will become the champion. So, but on the other hand, these two, they have already gotten the spot to the candidates in some sort of way. They have less pressure, and now they're just wanting to create more historical moments, just fighting for the first place. But I mean, if they lost or if they missed it, probably in their own minds, it's whatever, I just qualified to a candidate, that's good enough. So here Wei Yi decides to go for this inaccurate move, but really aggressive, h4. Sindarov here also starts to think, queen d7. And here Wei Yi plays the move queen h4 after thinking for 3 minutes. Now, Wei Yi, in some of the games that he has played in the World Cup, there is a pattern that he always gets into time trouble, or he has less time than his opponent. But sometimes in these games, he defends extremely well, and his opponent also sometimes misses the opportunities. And the game's results were pretty good for him, and he didn't lose a single game. Here, Sindarov plays the move Rook Fe8. Not the best move. It's actually better here to go h6, which is a computer move that sometimes for us humans it is really just, what is this? But the other move that might be more logical and also comes to my mind is this move d5 to open up the center, and it is a move that questions white whether are you going to take it or not, because if you just doesn't take it, and there might be some d4 ideas to fork the knight and the bishop. But here Sindarov is not in a hurry, and he played the move Rook Fe8. And here Wei Yi plays the move Bishop takes e6. This is a move that might be a turning point in this whole game, because Wei Yi, he gave up his bishop pair. I mean, this move, Bishop e6, is a really nice decision by him. But at the same time, after Bishop e6, f takes e6, this whole pawn structure, especially for black, has changed. And now the point is that black can even have a more effective d5 push at some point. And actually, f takes e6, but also queen takes e6 is possible, but then both sides will trade the queens off and go for an endgame. Where probably both, like these two, they didn't want that to happen, and Sindarov plays the move f takes e6, still complexing this position. Wei Yi here plays the move knight e2, and Sindarov plays d5. And actually, what I can see from this game is that Sindarov, besides these moves, he is also playing extremely fast, using his time really good, but at the same time, the moves, they have a very high quality, and I think that is one of his strategies to try to put Wei Yi under time pressure to gain a time advantage, which is really important, especially in these tie breaks where it's a rapid time control. d5. Now for Wei Yi, he decides to play this move knight g3. And here, the best move in the position is really strange because it somehow doesn't make sense. Like, white has just been playing h4 and ideas like h4, h5, but suddenly this move a5 turns out to be the best move in the position. Like, you did everything that you could on the king side, and suddenly you play this move on the queen side, a5. But like, after you play this move, it somehow makes sense because it's not that easy for black to react. Obviously, if black doesn't do anything, then white will take and open up this a file, which will be better for white. So probably, let's say black goes b5, and here the ending just says that, okay, black played this move, and now white just goes towards the king side once again with g4 ideas. This is like really confusing, but the computer is really in this a5 g4 like pattern favor. So, however, in the game, Wei Yi goes for this more logical and human-like move, knight g3. Rook f8, Sindarov plays really fast but really accurate. Rook f8, h5, Wei Yi trying to prove that he has some immediate activity or attack on the king side. Sindarov didn't hesitate and plays the move h6, because where else white will just play h6, and that could be really annoying, or bishop g5. So here h6 was played, and not allowing h6 nor bishop g5. Rook e2 was played, Wei Yi with the idea maybe in the future to open up and threaten the e5 pawn, and right now he is about to double his rooks on the e file. Rook f7, Sindarov doubling the rooks on the f file, so bishop d6. Because now, actually for a couple of moves already, Sindarov with the black pieces, he always has the chance to play d4. But it's really hard to evaluate whether it is a good move or it is necessary to close up the position, the center, that fast. And here Sindarov, he decides to keep the tension in the center of the board and wait for a couple of moves to see what will white do, and maybe at the correct or the most precise moment to push the pawn and have a really big like space advantage on the queen side. So here bishop d6 first and bishop d2. Now white can't really take on d5, because you might say if black takes on d5 with the e pawn, there might be knight f5, which could be a little bit annoying. Kicks this bishop, but the bishop can just go back. But actually here c takes d5 is slightly better than e takes d5, and this pawn structure is just perfect in the center, because controls all of these important squares and making it impossible for white's pieces to jump in. Alright, but here Wei Yi instead plays bishop d2 and rook f8, doubling the rooks. Bishop c3. Now, this is some serious threats because now white is threatening to take on d5 and win the e5 pawn. So it's kind of time to make a decision here, and Sindarov decides to close up finally, bishop d2 back and c5, with some ideas like c4 to try to create some weaknesses in white's territory. b3, very nice to prevent black from going there. a6, knight f1, queen e8. But at this point, in my opinion, black is definitely having a much more convenient position than white does. Black doesn't need to worry about anything. His pieces are really flexible, and there always are some b5, c4 ideas that could come up. And for white, white is the only side who can just wait to see what black does and defend. There's no clear idea that what white can do. Here, Wei Yi decides to go for some activity on the queen side. Rook a1, rook e7, knight g3, queen c8. So there is a stage where it comes that both players, they're just waiting back and forth, especially for Wei Yi. A takes b5, a takes b5, but now we have a couple of pawns exchanged off the board. And here, there is finally a mistake that has happened in this position. Wei Yi here played this move, knight g4, which is given a question mark. The point is that he just simply, I think he definitely saw this move that black is going to play, but he undervalued the strength of it, and the move c3. Here, the best move for him is actually to play rook e1, but now if there's c3, bishop c1, like, it's really hard to see the difference, but you see that after bishop c1, this knight is not on g4, and let's say black plays something like queen b7. The point is that the knight doesn't go to g4, but here for white, the pawn goes to g4, and now white does have some serious attack or counterplay on the king side. So knight g4 simply just wastes a tempo in sort of way speaking. Knight g4, but it looks logical. c3, bishop, knight takes f6 first, rook takes, and bishop e1. But as you can see, now this bishop seems a little bit misplaced. Maybe there's f3, bishop h4. That might be the idea that Wei Yi has got. But now there's rook f7, f3, rook a7. And it just seems that there's nothing that white has on the king side. And this pawn chain is just so strong. The e5 pawn gets defended by the bishop. And there's no way that white can defend any of these pawns. So black doesn't have any weaknesses and now threatens a lot on the queen side. So here Wei Yi decides to play rook d1, but actually here with perfect or with accurate defense moves, this is still a draw, technically speaking. But after rook a2, bishop h4, rook b7, I mean, just looking at this position in white's point of view, this just seems so exhausting to play. Like, it stresses us a lot because we don't have any counterplay and we have little space with the opponent's pawn already on the third rank and the c2 pawn a big weakness. The rooks, the queen, the bishop just all misplaced and doesn't have enough activity. And also more importantly, Wei Yi only has about 54 seconds on the clock and Sindarov has 2 minutes time advantage. So that is too much. Queen g4, queen e8. But Wei Yi, under pressure even though, has played really well. g3, rook b2, and it seems that black cannot improve. Even though white's position seems really ugly, but you just see that black can't really do anything. But of course, Sindarov is going to try to break in. Rook f1, rook b7, f4. Wei Yi here actually, after a couple of moves, suddenly has an advantage for himself. Because now after e takes f4, e5, he suddenly has counterplay. Bishop c5, rook takes f4, and the position suddenly just kind of switched. The rook on a2 is not doing anything. It has to come back. And after queen e8, rook f2, rook a1, queen f3, Wei Yi is much better here already. Rook b1, so this is a turning point. Queen e4 check. King goes to g8. And now there is another turning point, which actually just decides this whole result of the game, and Wei Yi here, he had a chance to win or close to win if he had played this move queen g6. The point being is that just quickly trade off the queens, and because his king is also not that safe, so after the queens are traded off, at least also he has some ideas on f8. And for example, if there's rook g1, but now let's say king goes, and the king can come to g4, which is really safe, and now the rook can slide into f7 and create some deadly ideas. But under time pressure, it's really hard to see. And here instead, he decides to go for this move, which also seems really normal. The move g4. But it's just a blunder. Now, blundering but not losing immediately, now the position is again back towards Sindarov's side. And here he played rook h1, attacking the bishop. King goes up to defend, rook e1, but it's getting really tricky here. And a single mistake could just decide the whole game. Rook e2, rook takes, and queen takes. It seems that black doesn't have anything here, and it seems white is really safe. Bishop takes e7, queen takes e7. But here, suddenly queen h4 is coming. And it's so because that is threatening mate somehow, or winning the advantage. The point is that the only move is to go king g2. But after queen h4, you need to find this only move that is just so incredible. Rook f8. Can you imagine? And black has to take, and now white can just go for this queen f3 idea and just give checks. But also you have to be really accurate, or you have to calculate really detailed to decide where to give a check. And of course, white, you should just accept the fact that you're already worse here, and you have to play like this, really passively sacrifice the rook and just force a draw. But maybe that isn't what Wei Yi wants to do, or sometimes this rook f8 is just nonsense. And instead he played this move, rook takes d4, maybe because if you don't play king g2, all of the other moves just dead lost, and probably Wei Yi with only 20 seconds left thought that the position is suddenly just losing for him. And he played this move, rook d4. But it just loses on the spot because after queen h4, king comes up, rook e1, really nice move, queen g2, and now this move, queen g5, king goes down, and queen e3 here with this idea of, forking the king and the rook, like checking the king and the rook at the same time. That's a weird saying, but like winning the rook on the very next move. So here, Wei Yi, after queen e3, resigned because, again, rook f8, this is just a nonsense move. I think it's impossible to see, here, rook f8. This whole concept is just insane. So after this move, queen e3, Sindarov, he wins this game. The rapid tie breaks. But not only he wins this game, he also creates history of becoming the youngest World Cup winner. So he qualifies into candidates, and what will his performances be in that event, which is even more high-leveled? Who knows? But right now, let's congratulate him of winning this whole event. And hope you guys enjoyed my recap of this game and as well as this whole video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!